Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. The World Health Organization publishes many reports on the dangers of alcohol abuse. Many harms of alcohol have been known since history, but this is the first time it has been revealed that alcohol can collapse an army. The Russian army is in constant trouble due to alcohol. What drunken Russian soldiers too surprises everyone. After the news and the Russian press today, the whole world started talking about this issue. So what is going on in the Russian army? Let's examine it together. Everyone knows that the Russian army has suffered from a great lack of discipline since the beginning of the war. Russian commanders fail to maintain order within the army. This situation caused Russia to fail a lot in the war. What makes army successful all over the world is discipline and order. Army is always have very strict rules. All soldiers obey these rules and follow the orders of their commanders, but this is not the case in the Russian. Because of racism and other problems in Russia, there are many conflicts within the army. This leads to constant conflicts in the Russian army. Also, the majority of Russian soldiers did not want to participate in this war, especially the 300,000 soldiers who were recruited after demoralization decision. Very reluctant about this. But there is a much more important reason for the lack of discipline in the Russian army. Alcohol. Russia is one of the countries with the highest alcohol consumption in the world. According to research, the annual alcohol consumption per capita in Russia is 15 liters. Russian people also prefer to drink vodka, which has a very high alcohol content. Local vodka produced in Russia is in addition, these vodkas lead to intoxication very quickly. Russia has a very cold climate. Because of this climate, agriculture in Russia is in a very bad state. Mostly wheat, rye and potatoes are grown in Russia. These crops are in the raw material for vodka Russia. Citizens produce vodka using the few agricultural products they have, but there is another reason why they use alcohol. This reason is related to in Russia, people who are caught try to warm up by drinking vodka. Vodka increases the feeling of warmth because it accelerates blood flow in the body. One of the biggest problems the Russian soldiers had in this war was the winter conditions. As you know, the Russian army was planning to end this war in a very short time, but these plans did not work. Thanks to the resistance of the Ukrainian army, the Russian army could not implement its. The war continued during the winter months, but there were no winter boots and clothes for Russian soldiers. Russian soldiers were constantly to feel cold. Many soldiers feel ill. There was tension in the army because of the epidemics that started in the Russian army. Russian soldiers who did not have winter clothes ran against air commanders. The commanders made a very wrong decision to solve this problem. This decision led to a huge defeat for the Russian army. And a lot of things happened to the Russian commanders too. What was this decision? The Russian commanders decided to distribute what got to the soldiers. It was doubt that this would warm up the soldiers. It was also doubt that the soldiers would be in a good mood and their motivation would increase because they were drinking alcohol. Apart from all this, there was another very important reason. Many soldiers in the Russian army were starting to leave the Russian commanders wanted to make sure that all the soldiers became addicted to alcohol. In this way, it was planted. Russian soldiers who were addicted would stay in the army to have easy access to alcohol. Russian leaders tried to make soldiers addicted to alcohol. This method had been used by Hitler before. During the Second World War, Hitler gave his soldiers drugs every day. Putin started to apply a similar method, but this led to very bad consequences. Drunk Russian soldiers committed many outrages. The Ukrainian army has shared footage of fights between Russian soldiers many times. There were many reports about this in the Russian press. Drunk Russian soldiers are constantly fighting among themselves. In addition, soldiers pass out for hours after getting drunk and therefore cannot participate in the clashes. It is also known that some soldiers drink alcohol during. This makes it difficult for soldiers sway. The Ukrainian army has more success in its operations because of the Russian soldiers who have problems in combat. Russian soldiers die in combat due to alcohol. Alcohol-related deaths in the Russian army also occur outside of combat. According to Russian media reports today, drunk Russian soldiers beat an officer to death. Soldiers of the 4th Kars Motorized Rifle Brigade consumed large doses of alcohol. This caused problems within the army. An officer became angry with the soldiers. A fight broke out between the soldiers. The soldiers next to the officer, and the drunk Russian soldiers started punching each other. The drunken soldiers were much more than About 7 soldiers surrounded the Russian officer. 2 soldiers held this officer by the hands. A Ken soldier punched the officer one after the other. Blood started coming out of the Russian officer's mouth. After a while, he fainted, but a Dragonkin soldier kept hitting him. The officer lying motionless on the ground was kicked repeatedly. When the shock of this fight wore off, the Russian soldiers began to sober. One of them noticed that the beaten officer was not moving at all. The officer had no pulse. The Russian soldiers had caused the death of a senior officer. Then 7 soldiers took their weapons and fled the unit. This incident in the Luhansk stunned everyone. The Russian army deployed several teams to catch these soldiers. 3 of the soldiers were captured with Innovate, but the other soldiers are still on. Today, Russian media shared documents showing that these soldiers took refuge in Ukraine. After these documents, it became clear what happened in the Russian army. The family of the slain Russian officer is very angry about this. The Russian officer was reported to have died in a firefight. After the spread of these reports, it turned out that the government was lying. The officers' families want the soldiers to be. Everyone in Russia is talking about this incident. Many Russian citizens blame the Kremlin government for this incident because it turned out that this incident happened because of the alcohol problem. There is a lot of anger against the Kremlin administration because of the high amount of alcohol given to the soldiers. Some Russian journalists claim that there are many alcohol-related crises in the Russian. However, the Russian government is trying to hide all of this crisis. Civil society organizations in Russia are calling for the truth to be revealed as soon as possible. This issue is expected to be a big problem for Putin's government. Soldiers who are addicted to alcohol will have many problems after even end of the war. That's why families of all soldiers are very. Putin has not made any statement on this issue so far. However, it is doubt that Putin will make a statement after the reactions increase. How do you think this problem in Russia will be solved? What do you think about Russian soldiers being addicted to alcohol? What are your thoughts on the beating death of the Russian officer? Don't forget to share their opinions with us. Follow us for more. All rights to these videos belong to Anka Daily News YouTube channel. Our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook usernames are at ankadailynews. Do not rely on any other social media publications. Thank you for watching the video. If you find it useful, please comment and share the video for us. It will make our channel more known. See you in the following videos. Thank you very much.